we'll continue about the curses.
Let's get into that again. All right. And so we had this example that we said, whatever Graha is afflicted by two malefics, then that Graha is carrying all the emotions of those two malefics on it. It's like a burden. Okay? It's actually a process which can be good for the individual, because now what's happening is that one Graha is processing two malefics. Okay? Now, when it's done with the processing, those two malefics will become like the Graha they're aspecting. If you keep looking at somebody, you will start behaving like them. So similarly, if two malefics are looking at Venus, eventually they'll become like Venus.
And she's having the extra weight on herself, yeah.
She's getting a bit of extra weight, carrying that burden emotionally. But when she's done processing, those two malefics will be blissful. Problem is, we don't know if it'll happen in this life or not, without knowing whether there's a retrogression or something like that. And this dwells on, are you solving the problem or getting deeper into the rut? This is a topic of curses when we dwell on those topics. But to give you an idea, this Graha Drishti is giving emotional experiences because of desire. Okay? This is where we are in trouble. It's Graha Drishti always puts us in trouble. Always. Okay? Because of desire, which also means expectations. You can now argue, malefics are having very high expectations or hard expectations. They don't give easily. Benefics say, oh, you did that little bit? Okay, here you go, quickly, take some more juice. Okay, take some more sweets. Benefics, easily they give. But malefics, they're like, also do this. Okay, now this expectation has to be met. Now this expectation that has to be met. And expectation. Finally, you're blessed. All right? Finally, you're blessed. So you don't want Saturn aspecting a part of your chart, because his expectations for you on how much burden you can carry is very high. He believes that you should work extremely hard. Okay? And he doesn't say, finish it quickly. No, he says, yeah, but you should carry this burden for at least 19 years. I mean, what do you do with Saturn? All right?
Yeah.
That's hard. All right? Rahu is similar also. But he will create doubts instead. He doesn't put pressure on you physically. All right? He puts pressure on you mentally. Okay, being a node. Mars is only interested in security. Once you've established security, he's letting you go. He said, okay, now we're good. Once you've established it. Now, the Sun, he is only interested in character. So if he sees a flaw in your character, he will burn you. And the burning will feel like burning. You will get bitter, you'll get angry, you'll feel embarrassed and humiliated. He's interested in character. He wants to purify the character completely. Very hard grahas to deal with. Okay? The only one who's not participating in this is Ketu, because he didn't have a desire. So because of that, he makes you oblivious. Before you get moksha, Ketu will make you make 100 mistakes because you were not thinking. All right?
Don't have capacity to do so, yeah.
You're not having the capacity of thought, so you don't think. So when you don't think, you make mistakes. Forget that idea of Lagna versus Lagna Lord. Ketu says, no Lagna Lord. We're not thinking. We're not debating. We're not processing any information. Okay?
Yes. And very quickly, we are speaking about the Drishti, but what about the Yuti of Ketu?
Same. Actually, that is when the mistakes come up due to the Yuti. All right? Yes. All right.
Okay,
so,
beautiful.
So now we came there and we said, all right, this is how Graha Drishti works. But Graha Drishti is very important. I spoke of the negative and positive, but there is an aspect of it which is very important for knowing how the chart is running, moving. Okay? And that is, Graha Drishti is very important for yogas between bhavas as well. Okay? Because if you didn't have a desire or somebody else didn't have a desire, you will not try to achieve. So even if the planets are a malefic and a benefic, it's possible that, yes, you need to become Bill Clinton to have the Lewinsky scandal, and Bill Clinton had to be president to have the Lewinsky scandal be relevant for him. And in Bill Clinton's chart, he has his Raja Sambandha Yoga being, the Raja Sambandha being associated with the Raj, associated with kings and queens and royals and ministers and politicians and all of that. That same yoga is also his yoga for Bahustri, having multiple relationships. Same yoga in his chart. So the point is that you need Drishti to have a desire to do something. Okay?
Yeah.
And it may be, it could be a tough run to go through that experience of having that desire. Okay? It can be. So both things can happen, and this is where we step into the gray of Jyotish. So Graha Drishti is like that. It is used because you want to see what desires are there. Other people's desires, your desires. Your desires could be for a dasha. Other people's desires are always there. Your desires could be with your Lagna Lord, maybe with the Atma Karaka also. These are your own desires. So we want to see them.
Right.
Rahu is always having Graha Drishti on Ketu. So if Rahu is the Atma Karaka, here is a soul who is actually looking for moksha. Okay?
Yes.
Yes. So Rahu doesn't sound so bad when you hear that. He's the only one who is always looking at Ketu. The seventh house from every Atma Karaka will always be aspected and is the house where rebirth happens. Seventh house is rebirth. Okay? And so, as a result of that, if anybody, for every Atma Karaka, you have to see the seventh from it, because that Graha Drishti of that Atma Karaka is defining what desire they have to have fulfilled. The soul is trying to fulfill that. That is its Ichcha. So now I want to, because Graha Drishti we can spend a lot of energy on, but I've given the important aspects of it. There are emotions carried through Graha Drishti. There are desires carried through Graha Drishti. So everything where there's a relevance of emotion and desire, you need to use Graha Drishti.
Yes.
Always.
Yes.
And this can mean desires which are also coming from devatas, by the way. So when we talk about Drishti in general, of Graha Drishti specifically, the Ichcha is relevant here. It's all about Ichcha. What is your Ichcha? What is the Devata's Ichcha? The Devata's Ichcha manifests through human beings or other people or other souls in this planet. Okay? So that is the topic of Ichcha alone. This Ichcha topic, I now make references to and say, you should also study Chesta. Chesta bala is a concept, and this speaks about the desires of the grahas as well, but a different aspect of the desires. For example, very high Chesta comes when the graha is retrograde. Very high. If a graha is retrograde, its Graha Drishti becomes so pronounced that it ignores the sign it is in. It just ignores it. It says, forget that. I'm interested in the desires more than what I'm placed in. Now, the opposite of retrograde is called Atichara. Very fast moving. That means retrograde is like not moving almost. Moving in reverse, actually. But Atichara is moving very fast. And that, when a graha is in Atichara, don't ignore it, because it means the graha is running scared in the chart. So whenever its dasha comes, whenever any yoga is relevant to it comes up, that graha is behaving very scared and is running away. It's exiting. This can cause a lot of disturbance in a person's life. If you have a muhurta where a graha is atichara, you could run away from that muhurta, especially the Lagna Lord. If the Lagna Lord is atichara, you could run away from the activity you're partaking in. Okay?
Right.
You might have reasons to, excuses to, but that's what's happening. Okay? Atichara is very important. In the nadis, they say Vakri or Atichara, the two extremes. And they are both important for desire. They are. Now, the Drishti of a Graha in Atichara is completely irrelevant. It doesn't care. It's running away from the desires. But Vakri means it's fully focused on the desires. Like that. Now, that's a separate topic is Chesta, but I leave it be. So we'll enter Rashi Drishti.
Rashi Drishti, yeah.
And one should, after this, of course, after learning this about the Ichcha Shakti and Graha Drishti, one should study what are the specific Graha Drishtis. Somebody will look them up, or it's trines for Jupiter, 310 for Saturn, 48 for Mars, the special Drishtis, etc., etc. Go mug it up, learn it, and have this in the back of your hand when it comes to Graha Drishti. And we go in much more detail in the courses, much more detail. And we even talk about Drishti bala, which also refers to a power of influence. Like if ninth lord is having Graha Drishti on my lagna, it means my father can influence me.
Yes. The father is looking at you. Yeah.
Father is wanting to change me somehow. Okay?
Right.
Because there's a desire, Icha. Now, the topic of Rashi Drishti. Jnana Drishti. Jnana Shakti. When you learn Rashi Drishti at first, you will get the impression, oh, this is proper Jaimini Jyotish now. Because Rashi Drishti works really well from Arudas. It really does. Oh, Arudas, that's Jaimini. Oh, Rashi Drishti, that's Jaimini. Oh, everything is Jaimini. We'll just use it for Jaimini. Maybe we'll only use it with Rashi Dashas like Chara Dasha. It's a misnomer to think that. It works very well from every angle of Jyotish that exists. Every angle. Houses, lords, karakas, everything, it works. Context is important. Because Jnana Drishti is like Deva Drishti, which means now the whole embodiment of the Devas is coming to fore. Your desire did not matter. Okay? Your desire is not important. Now,
Very quickly.
Go ahead.
When you spoke about the Graha Drishti, these are actually a transient. This is in transit. So it's not eternal like the Rashi Drishti, which is actually connected to the Devas, right?
Yes. Yes.
You can say like that.
That's very appropriate to say. Now, it's not impossible that a person can have one desire for a whole lifetime. One Icha. Okay? So yes, you are right. But even more importantly, as you put across, Graha Drishti is transient. It changes. Our desires are changing. The desires you have when you're a kid and now are not the same. But there's a good chance that regardless of your desires, the place where you are living will not change whether you're there or not. Because that area is still there. All right? Oh, it's next to the river. Okay. The river is still there. A good chance that's going to stay the same.
Circumstances.
If you say, no, the world is constantly changing, haven't you seen what's happening in the world? I said, yeah, that is an impact of something happening over a longer period of time. Then I'll say, no, the universe will stay the same. Then somebody said, no, the universe is also changing, so on and so forth. I said, look, Rashi Drishti is about something which is lasting a long time and is circumstantial. It's a circumstance. That circumstance is the same. You can say that you live in a place where there's a library right next door. That means your house has Rashi Drishti on a library. Okay? That's how Rashi Drishti works. It's a circumstance that's there. And because it's there, you're having an opportunity to get knowledge from there. Whether you wanted it or not, there's an opportunity to get knowledge from there. And that knowledge could breed desire, Icha.
Yeah.
Because you're being informed, right? But it also may not. That information may not breed desire. That is Rashi Drishti for you. Okay?
Beautiful.
Now, that's the simple, easy explanation. Because when you learn Rashi Drishti, you will learn that the concept is based on signs. The movable signs aspect the fixed signs, and the fixed ones aspect the movable, and the dual aspect each other. Why is that? What is that about? Okay, so when I was first taught Rashi Drishti, my Guruji said, the movable signs are always moving. They never stop. But one day they will stop because they can't keep moving. They'll run out of gas. Okay? And then they will stop. So, as a result of which, they end up sthira after some time. The Chara Rashis, movable signs, end up fixed. The fixed signs are already fixed. They're not moving. And they cannot continue not moving because things are not permanent. They do change. And so they end up looking at the Chara. And that is the way life goes. We're moving, then we stop. And then, hopefully, you're in a place where after the stoppage, you're tired and whatnot, you can refuel. The refueling station is in the dual signs.
I thought about when you mentioned the dual signs, I thought about refueling. Yeah.
They are refueling stations, exactly. And they have both fixed and movable traits in them. That's why they're called dual. They are both fixed and movable at the same time. And because they're both, they don't need the movable or fixed. They're having the embodiment of both in themselves already. So movable aspect, the fixed, and fixed aspect, the movable, to create fueling stations. It's like food for them. But the dual don't need to look at the others because they already like refueling stations in themselves. It's as if they are all constantly refueling themselves, like a constant samadhi. Okay, that's the nature of the dual signs. They work like that. And that's why Rashi Drishti is brought about by this concept. Now, in this, slight importance is given to that houses or signs which are in groups, 1, 2, 3, Aries, Taurus, Gemini, they don't aspect each other. Okay? So that means Taurus doesn't aspect Aries and Aries does not aspect Taurus. But Taurus can aspect the other movable signs as Aries can aspect the other fixed signs than Taurus.
Yes.
And so if you make this grouping, 1, 2, 3 do not aspect each other. 4, 5, 6 do not aspect each other. 7, 8, 9 also do not. And 10, 11, 12 don't either. So that's 10, 11, 12, Capricorn, Aquarius, Pisces.
Yes. Easy to understand.
So then the groupings are set. These don't aspect each other. They can aspect other signs, but not in the same group. They are in the same foot. They're in the same pada, we call them. They're walking in the same direction. Aries, Taurus, Gemini they walk forward. Cancer, Leo, Virgo, they walk backwards, step back. Libra, Scorpio, Sag walk forward, and the rest, Capricorn, Aquarius, Pisces, they walk backward. These are called pada. Vimsa pada walk forward, Sama pada walk backward. All right? And then at this stage, one teaches the pada of Vishnu. And one teaches the Rik, Trini pada Vichakrame. Okay, I won't say the whole Rik. But from there, we teach this Rik and we talk about the pada of Vishnu moving forward and backward. This is the basis of pada krama dasha, also called Narayan dasha.
Yeah.
All right, I come back a little bit. This is basically entering Gemini. Never mind that for now.
No.
And so, come back to this Rashi Drishti, and we've derived the Drishtis. And then we said these dual signs are fueling stations. And then I say, wait a minute. If I say dual signs are the epitome of Rashi Drishti, I'm dealing with something which is giving fuel and food and wealth and sustenance. Therefore, this method of Rashi Drishti is for birth charts. Sthiti. There must be a Rashi Drishti for conception charts and a Rashi Drishti for death charts, which is different. There is.
Indeed.
There's something called the Pataki Chakra. It's used for seeing death. In that chart, the fixed signs aspect each other and the movable and duals aspect each other. Fun? Okay?
Indeed.
So the concept is there. If you understand the philosophy, you can understand the others, the other practices and principles.
Great.
All right. Revert back to Rashi Drishti. Let's come back to the people who are born on this planet, Sthiti, and we get practical about it. Because Rashi Drishti is giving you information. It's jnana. It's giving you information.
Yes.
The interesting aspect of it is it can give you information which is changing your thought process. Okay? Information can change your thought process. And this can cause a change of attitude. So now we're getting into the bhavas again. So when we analyze signs and we are trying to see how the signs are which type of information they are exposed to, we are interested in Rashi Drishti on the signs. So if I want to know how you are processing information in general, okay, I have to look at either Lagna or Lagna Lord. The Lagna Lord itself is the processing, but the Lagna itself is what type of information you're dealing with. Okay? What is your automatic response also to information you get? All right? So this play between the Lagna and Lagna Lord is a bit of an ordeal. If you have a Graha in the Lagna, then forget Rashi Drishti on the Lagna. Forget it. Because the Graha and Lagna is going to dominate.
Influence, yeah.
Yes. Now, this is relevant for the self and for the health and for the body because it's Lagna. But you have 12 other houses that are also processing it, also having information given to it. For example, if I want to know what is the person's attitude towards relationships, attitude means automatic response. Okay? Attitude is that. So if the person is having a 7th house, having the Rashi Drishti of Saturn, the person's attitude towards relationship is Saturnian. Can that be good or can it be bad? Well, we like 7th house. When Saturn is in 7th house, it goes into Digbala. It's not necessarily bad. Okay?
Yeah.
What it can do is the person is saying, I only want a spouse who will follow my path.
My discipline, my structure, my...
You could say discipline. It's not appropriate to say. It's my path. For example, people who say, I don't want a spouse who drinks. Okay? When you start saying, I don't want that, or I want this, or I don't want that, I want this. You know, that change is happening because of Malefic's aspecting the 7th house by Rashi Drishti, not Graha Drishti. Okay? Not Graha Drishti. You say, Visti, wait a minute. You said the person wants something. That's Icha. Yeah, that Rashi Drishti is shaping the Icha behind the Bhava. But it is not Icha. It is because the person has had an experience. And because of that, they thought that was bad or good. So they want to replicate that in the relationship, if it's aspecting 7th house. Because after all, if it's a Rashi Drishti on the 7th, the Graha was not in 7th. It was somewhere else. And the experience in that other bhava is now shaping the attitude towards 7th house relationships, if the Drishti is on 7th from Lagna. Okay?
Okay.
So now when we learn this, we can now say the following. Your 7th house is your attitude towards relationships. Your 7th Lord is your processing. Maybe people tell you, you should not think like that about relationships. Or they can also tell me what happened to the spouse or with the spouse. Okay? It's to or with, depending on a few topics. I know your experience will be seen from Venus. Okay? And that way we have 3 now. 7th house, 7th Lord, Karaka. What is my thought? What happened to the spouse? What was my experience of the relationship? Okay? And there's also an Aruda, what finally manifested.
And for a brief moment, for instance, what we have in a 7th bhava, what Graha we have in the 7th bhava actually shows, through that Graha shows our attitude towards the marriage and partnership.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So when people say, oh, you have malefics in 7th house, that's so bad, I say, it's only bad for your attitude. And maybe your attitude is so poor, you won't marry. Okay? Maybe you have so many malefics in your 7th that your attitude towards relationships is very difficult to meet. And nobody can fit in there. So yeah, then it's a problem. Yes.
Yeah.
So when people say, oh, Mars in 7th gives 3 marriages, I say, what's happening to the person's brain that they want to have 3 marriages? Okay? Because it's their attitude, you see?
Yes.
Their attitude towards their spouse is so poor that they cannot stay with the first one. Then they cannot stay with the second one. Only after the 3rd one do they start thinking, okay, maybe I can finally settle down. So it's not the problem with the spouse. It's the problem with the self.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
So bhava problems cause problems with the self. So from bhavas and Rashi Drishti on the bhavas, you're getting to know how they treat their kids from 5th or 9th house, from their spouse from 7th house, how they treat their work from the 10th house, how they treat themselves from the Lagna. Rashi Drishti is relevant in this. It's very relevant. Okay?
But the reason why it works better, if I understood correctly, from the Arudas.
Arudas is a bit
different topic, yeah. Yeah.
Because their Rashi Drishti is an opportunity for different forms of manifestation. Okay? And it's not that it works better or doesn't work better from the Arudas. It's just that when you read Arudas, you're interested in some final result. And results are based on circumstances, not necessarily desires. Okay? You want to know the phala. The phala is the fruit. You want to see what is the fruit. You cannot rely on fruits that you didn't get.
Yeah. Yeah.
But some people do that, don't they? They say, oh, but this person says they are going to pay next month. Oh, you got a Graha Drishti on your 11th from the Aruda Lagna. So you're thinking they'll pay, but they're maybe not. Because you need the Rashi Drishti on the 11th from the Aruda to get some income.
So the Rashi Drishti and the Aruda, we can say it's a kind of a fine-tuning towards the...
They are made for each other because they're all about fruits. What fruits do you actually have in your bank account or in the fridge? So that's Rashi Drishti. It's so relevant. But what people don't realize is how much it impacts bhavas. Okay. And that's what I wanted to get into. So I have this chart. Let me share it.
Yes.